Today we're talking about propagating your own succulents. We have containers full of succulents all over our home. My daughter has this little snail. I have this little bathtub. We absolutely love them. They're the perfect indoor houseplant and they're very easy to grow. So let me show you how. I want to show you how easy it is to propagate succulents by taking pieces of your existing succulents or cuttings and allowing them to callus and start all new plants. Every single piece of a leaf that you take off of a succulent plant can become another plant with time and with a little bit of patience. But it's really easy to do, and I want to show you how we do it. We propagate right here inside of our house. Now in the summertime I can propagate outside in the greenhouse, but our greenhouse isn't heated. So I move inside during these winter months when it's really cold outside. Our basement is perfect for it. It's warm because we have a wood stove. I have lots of room to set out a big table with grow lights, and I'm starting my indoor garden starts anyway, so we figured we may as well just go ahead and do the succulents at the same time. I've propagated hundreds this week, and I want to show you how we do that step by step, how easy it is, and give you a few tips about their care. If you saw my December video about decorating for your Christmas Yule log with succulents, you'll remember that I said to you, even if you hot glue some glue onto the bottom of a piece of succulent and glue it onto a log, it will come back. And boy, did it ever. I have so many pieces of succulents that I pulled off of the Yule log. It's now February, and it's growing roots like I've never seen before. I do the same thing when I decorate for the fall with pumpkins, and we just hot glue the pieces right on top into some moss. And at the end of the season, you could really take that whole chunk of moss and the succulent pieces and stick it in a pot of dirt and it would start to grow. But I've decided instead to pull them off individually and propagate them into individual small plants. I can use these for planting other planters throughout my home, or I could sell them. We have probably 50 to 60 plants going right now, and I have another couple hundred started in the propagation trays. I want to show you step by step how we do that. Now what we want to do is make sure that we take this individual piece and lay it out so that it's dry and it'll callus. The end of it will callus. And you can just lay that on a towel. Some people lay them in dirt, but you don't need to in the beginning. You can just lay them out. And I lay them out on a towel like this. And it can't be too dry and it can't be too cold. So the ones, I had these out in my greenhouse and it's a little cold out there. We've been getting a lot of snow. So I brought them into the basement and the conditions are pretty good down here. Everything it needs will come from the inside of this leaf up until it starts to flower. And what's going to happen is after 4 or 5 days, the very end of this piece is going to start to callus. It'll dry out and callus, and it will start to want to grow. Sometimes they callus and they throw out roots and a tiny little flower bud just like this. That's going to grow into our plant. Sometimes they callus and they just put roots out. This one calloused and just put a little plant out but no roots. Ideally what I'm looking for is something that has roots so we can move it to the soil. I'll show you how. All right, now about this pile. The pile includes lots of little pieces that I'm just going to lay out on my paper towels like we talked about. A couple of days they're going to go ahead and start to callus off and develop a little tiny bud. And the others, there's lots in here that have roots already growing. This is a great example. This one really could just go into one of these 3-inch pots or 2-inch pots or whatever size pot I have in here today. They can go in there, or you could temporarily put them into a tray and get them started in a starter tray. I have quite a few like this that are ready to go. And then I have some pieces like this, which have started teeny tiny little flower buds. I'm not ready to put him in the soil tray yet. I'm gonna let him be on here just a little bit longer. I'd like to see him put out roots before I lay him here on the tray. Some people start right in the dirt, so you certainly could go ahead and take your pieces and lay them in the dirt. I just don't like to take up all of the space that it requires to put them all in the dirt until I know that they're gonna take. Once they grow roots, I'm gonna move them into a tray of mixed material. This is a soilless material. I made a mix of peat moss, perlite, and vermiculite. Kept it very, very light. I even added a little bit of sand. We wanna keep this very light so the roots can really go. And I like to use these tongs and a chopstick, because if you make a hole and put your roots down in the hole and just push it back in very gently, leaving that flower up above. That's all it takes. Sometimes I'll take a little soil and put it over. But that's it. We're really just trying to lay it on top of the soil. So again, I'm just going to make a small hole to give space for the roots to go and lay that piece in there. Each one of these will develop into a nice little succulent plant. And I will spray. I do have a little bit of water spray that I might put on top of them. And I have some succulent fertilizer in here to give them a little extra boost. And really just other than that little bit of water from time to time, they don't need much to get going. I do want to get them underneath of the lights though, so I'm going to fill this tray and then we'll move them underneath the lights. Sometimes you'll break a piece of a succulent off and the entire top of it, let's just imagine that this little guy, I just broke this out right from the center on the top. This is not a crisis, this is an opportunity. And that little plant that you break off, you can actually lay out on the towel just like the others that I have, and it will grow some roots. You can take that and shove it right down into soil, and usually with a little nutrition, it'll just take off. And that little piece will develop roots and develop an entire plant. The one that's in this little planter was exactly like that. This little guy had broken off and it grew roots at the end of it, so I stuck it down inside of here. And I'm confident it's going to take off in here in no time. They're going to be overcrowded in this very, very soon, and I'm probably going to have to move them out. But that's the fun of succulents. You can change them out easily and often and really have a new look or a lot of new plants in a very short amount of time. All right, so the next step in a few weeks' time, as these develop, we're looking to get these little flower buds to be at least this size. I like to use these small, are these 2-inch pots? They're 2-inch pots to put them in. It's a really good size for individual succulents. I do sell some of these, but we also use them for planters here at home. But I want to make sure that they have an established root system and a good size flower before you put them in here. But these little guys will just keep growing and growing until they're ready to either be sold or repotted when they have nice root structure inside. One of the things I like to use to get them out of their pots so that I don't break them apart is, this is an offset spatula in the kitchen, and they are great for going down inside of your plants to help pull them out and get them out of here. Certainly you can squeeze the bottom and help push it up. If its roots are developed, that should hold on pretty well. But you want to be very careful getting them out of there before you move them. So I leave mine in these trays, but I leave them in a plastic open-sided rack underneath of it. After they've soaked and they've drawn up the water that they need, they go into these open trays so that they can get some air circulation. When we have all of our seedlings down here for the garden going, I like them to get a lot of air so that fungus doesn't develop. And I use a fan and I use bottom-up watering to really help diminish the amount of algae or mold or fungus that could grow. All right, I want to talk a little bit about watering. So I don't really like overhead watering for a lot of reasons. I don't like overhead watering because it gives you a false sense of understanding about whether or not your plant needs water. And by that I mean, if you look at the top of your plant and it happens to look damp, you might not think it needs water, but deep down inside the pot where the roots are, it could be really dry. So it's not a very good indication of whether or not the plant needs water. Bottom-up watering is the best method. And I do that by taking my small containers and putting them down in a tray of water, let them sit there for 20 to 30 minutes, however long it takes, to draw the water up into the plant. A couple of really cool things happen when you do this. First of all, the plant is pulling the water up to the roots first, and if it needs it, it will draw it up even further. So you'll see the color change on top, and you'll know that it's properly watered. If you start to see the top dry off, you know it's time to water it. If you water it from the top, it might not ever look like it dries off because you're keeping it wet all the time, but you don't know if water went down to the roots. So bottom-up watering is the way to go. When it starts to dry out on the top, you know it's time to give them some more water. You see the little bit of space that they have is actually going to allow them to get airflow underneath. Otherwise, this water that you see dripping out right now, they'd be sitting in that, and that's not what we want. We want airflow. So they're well hydrated, they're going to get the airflow that they need, they're going back underneath of the lights, and we do that for 16 hours a day in the lights. And then I'll come in here and check their water in a day or two. I check every day, but it'll probably be 2, maybe 3 days until they need any more. There are a number of different products in the market that you can use to give a little fertilizer nutrition to your succulents. And certainly there are products made by Miracle-Gro and other companies. I've used them too. I don't like to use those kind of products when I'm using them for vegetables, but for succulents, it's perfectly fine. One of the easiest things that you can do though is just buy yourself some azomite clay. This is like a super fertilizer. It's actually mined in Utah, and it is a clay, but it has 67 trace minerals in it. And when you get this pulverized, super powdery clay that you can mix right into your water or into your potting mix. It's going to give a nice little boost. It really helps with root development and the growth and structure of the plant. So I highly recommend getting some of that. It's not inexpensive, so as far as cheap solutions go, it might not be your top pick, but it's a good solution, and a good solution is worth paying a little bit of money for. All right, a couple of things to keep in mind when you're planting your succulents in a small planter. First of all, I just can't say it enough. Don't overwater your plants. Wait until they look like they need water or the top feels like it needs water. Don't overwater your succulents. But you definitely want to put something in the bottom of it to make sure that you're not having your roots sit in water all the time. It just gets waterlogged and heavy. So I like to put some stones or some pebbles in the bottom of it, and then put my soil in, a really nice light mix of soil. And we like to put stones on top because it's decorative and it looks nice. I love to garden and I absolutely love plants, but I'll have to admit, for years I didn't really have any house plants. I was too busy taking care of outdoor gardens and outdoor plants and indoor people and animals to even begin to think about having time to take care of house plants. We've slowly started to bring some back into our lives again. It's probably a sign that we're starting to find some sort of balance in our lives. But I'll tell you, my gateway back into houseplants were succulents. They're easy to grow, they're so easy to take care of, and they just give you a lot of joy. They're just really cute. Everybody loves them. So if you have some and you want to propagate some more, maybe share them with friends or sell them to neighbors, I hope that this video has given you some good information about how to get started. If you have any additional questions that I didn't answer for you, feel free to throw that down in the comments. And while you're at it, take a look at my channel, take a look at some of the other videos we're putting together. We're putting out different content every single day. I hope that you'll join me, subscribe, and share with your friends.